But here's the thing, is that if you're thinking about working abroad, there's a potential, think of financial arbitrage, put on your hat, think of inefficiencies in the market. This is
What's arbitrage?
Arbitrage is where you're trying to look for an inefficiency in the market where you want to, and take advantage of it. And here's a perfect example of it. If you're going to work abroad, don't go to, let's say, India or South America in general. Pick some place like Norway or Japan. Why? Because the cost of living there is so high, they're going to pay you a lot more money. Somebody in Norway who's doing very little is getting paid $100,000 a year. And somebody who's just like practically working a cash register. I mean, I'm slightly exaggerating, but the bottom line is, no matter where you go, whether you're in Kenya or whether you're in Oslo, I mean, the bottom line, you're going to be able to save roughly 10, 20, if you're really good, half of your income, a certain percentage of your income. So the name of the game is to get a very high income. And so if you're able to work in Japan, for example, you'll be able to save a high percentage of your, whatever percentage of your salary, even if it's just 10, 20%, it's going to be worth a lot more than if you're in Bulgaria. That 10% or 20%, or even if you save half your money in Bulgaria, it's going to only, people in Bulgaria or Ukraine, for example, are only earning about $500 a month. And so, versus in Japan, you could earn, doing moderate work, you could earn thousands, maybe $5,000 a month. And so that's my advice. If you want to go work in another country, pick a country that has a very, very high, like Luxembourg. Luxembourg, the average wage there is about $150,000 a year. And so aim for some place like that, and then live like a monk. While you're there, you're going to save up a ton of money, then do the arbitrage on the other side, go to travel to India and those third world countries, and then live in Thailand for a long time. And then you can make that money that you saved up last forever.
I think actually one thing that was helpful for me to remember when I was traveling is that in a lot of countries, places like India, Indonesia, there's more than half the population is living on $1 a day, literally. So not to say you want to live necessarily like that or travel like that, but you could be traveling, if you're spending $4 a day, you're living you have 4x the cash that the average person in India is living on. And that's basically living like a king. You can actually do pretty well. So I think Francis's point about going someplace cheap and saving up money that you can earn here or somewhere else is pretty interesting.
And we're pretty blessed here in Silicon Valley because we can earn a fair amount of money, more than the average. I mean, here you really don't have to do much to earn $40,000 a year. And that's a lot of money in most of the world.
We go back to my home state of Colorado and live pretty well. You have a question back there?
Yeah, the budgets that you guys mentioned, is that based on traveling solo or like in a group or a pair, or just kind of gauge that number?
How do you figure out the budget? Maybe Kristen, you can start with this one. What do you actually need to do this? Like, how do you even figure out, do you need $5,000 or $10,000 or $1,000?
So my first trip, I totally winged it, and on a wing and a prayer, I came home with money. And the second trip, I was a little bit more methodical because I was working for a certain amount of time to hit a budget. And I traveled a combination of tours and I used Intrepid Travel. I traveled on my own most of the time, and then would meet up with friends in various cities of the world. So then we upped our accommodations a little bit. So how I figured it out was actually something I learned in grad school. I also went to business school, but not Harvard. University of Wisconsin. Go Badgers. There's something called the top-down method, and it's basically what you do is you estimate three things. You estimate where do you want to go, and that kind of sets your framework for your budget. And then you look at the costs per day in that country. And I use a formula this is kind of embarrassing, but Susie Orman talks about. She talks about that your housing is a third of your expenses on a day. So I kind of apply that logic to hotels. So I look up a hotel cost, kind of at the level of comfort I'd be down with in that country, and then I times it by 3. And then that's my cost per day. And then I start to go on fun little airfare searches. And then I start to find my transportation costs. I add in any tours, activities, and then I start to budget the third part, which is what would I need to prepare? Like, do I need to buy anything? Do I want that Nikon lens? Will my backpack be fine? Do I need a new one? I love shopping, so my backpack's never good enough. And then I also budget my at-home costs, my coming home costs, which are, I think about like, will I need a new apartment? You know, how many months will it take me to find a job? Am I moving back in with mom and dad like I did for a couple of trips? So I take kind of those three pieces and put them together, and that kind of creates a nice number. So long answer, the method's on my blog, Take Your Big Trip, in the budget section, but that I've hit that really accurately ever since I started doing it.
There is some economies of scale that happens when you travel with more people. So if you go solo and you go with a partner, you do get to shack up usually in the same hotel. Although a lot of hostels charge per person, so you're not really going to gain all that much. But once you get to, let's say, 4 people, then you can save potentially, if you decide to rent a car between the 4 of you, and you might be able to at least have overall savings there. But that's just one thing to consider. But you,
a lot of my trip was really open-ended, to be honest with you. I had, like $10,000 in the bank, and then was basically going to travel until it ran out. And I did have a cushion for coming home. But I think there's this, travel quote that's, I don't remember who it is, but I can send it out if you need it. That, for a successful trip, lay out everything you want to pack for your trip, then pack half as much stuff and twice as much money. Usually what I tell my clients is to, if you want to be gone 18 months, save as much money as you think you need for 2 years. You'll be pleasantly surprised. I think the thing about long-term travel is that give yourself a chance to ease in during the first 2 weeks, stay in a nicer hotel, and eat nicer meals. You will be surprised by how rabidly competitive you become by the 3rd week.